What's up guys, my name is Benji and welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'll be showing you how I'm lining up for Game Week 2. I'll also be discussing my thoughts on Game Week 1 and my favorite replacements for Kwanzaa, Tony, and more. We'll also talk through Haaland triple captain and whether I think it's a good idea or a bad one. Thinking cap activated. Welcome to the recap, which is something new I'm introducing in every team selection video. We'll run over some transfer and injury news and any new information we've gotten after Game Week 1. Let's start with the injuries and doubts. So we've got Kwanzaa, Paro, Danilo, Ola Aina, Burns, and Ivan Toney. So Kwanzaa, he got hooked at 45 against Ipswich and he's a minutes risk now. He's also dropped to 4.4 million, so even if you sell him now, you're not even saving the 0.1. Just keep an eye on his price going forward, and then if he's looking like dropping late again, then just sell him. Paro limped off late against Leicester, and look, we're still waiting on more news from him. If you are following me on any of the Thinking Cap socials, I'll repost it so you don't miss it, but there is a chance he could be available. It didn't look like a terrible injury, just something with his ankle, and I'm not sure if it's going to keep him out for a while, but look, if we do get news that he's having scans and stuff, then I'll be more concerned. But for now, I just think it's a hold, and make sure you've got a solid backup option on the bench for him. Danilo and Aina also went off injured in that Bournemouth Forest game. It's not really good news for them, but they did just sign Alex Moreno, who we'll look at in a little bit. So we'll see if he's actually available to play against Southampton. Just one to monitor really as we get close to the deadline. Burns from Ipswich Town also went off injured. I think this is actually a good thing for people who own Ben Johnson, who's that 4 million defender. But let's see what McKenna does in that spot, right? Because we don't really know. Finally, Ivan Toney, look, he's actually not injured, but he wasn't even in the Brentford squad for the Palace game last Sunday. He's definitely eyeing a move, and if you have him for sure, I think he's just a sell. Onto the transfer scoop. So Valentino Barco, who's a popular 4.0 million pick, he is set to join Sevilla on loan, which is very interesting news. I highly doubt you're really going to get many minutes out of Barco, even if he does stay at Brighton, but that's one to monitor. And if you do have him, I don't think he's a sell this week necessarily, but longer term, game weeks maybe 3 or 4, think about selling him when you get real clarity over his situation. Next is Ivan Nilsson, who's a Porto striker. He's now moved to Bournemouth. FPL have priced him as a 6 million forward, and Evan Nilsson, he did have a good penalty record with Porto, but overall, just listening to some of the Porto fans on Twitter, they didn't really rate him too highly, so let's see what that situation entails. Alex Moreno has moved to Nottingham Forest, so it's interesting. We just saw Ola Aina is injured. I'm not sure if Moreno is going to be ready for Game Week 2 just with all of the player registration. I'm not sure how long that's going to take to process, if it's going to be available in 5 days, 6 days that he's been announced. So let's see how that progresses, but they do need him in that side because they are looking quite weak defensively. Rutter from Leeds. So Rutter is a Leeds forward. I think he's from France. He's now moved to Brighton. Now this is a locked transfer. His official FPL price hasn't been announced, but he's rumored to be a 5.5 million midfielder. Now look, that's not concrete, but it is something to think about because if he is in the midfield, he's playing number 9 for Brighton, he could offer a lot of upside. And just a side note on Rutter coming, I do think that does affect João Pedro's minutes. Anderson has actually moved from Crystal Palace to Fulham. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. 2 Premier League clubs. Now, this is an interesting move. This means that Chris Richards from Palace, his minutes are quite locked, 4.5 million, and this also means Guehi will probably stay, so that's good for the Palace defense, but this also improves Fulham's defense. Some would argue it's good for Robinson, some would argue it's bad for Robinson just because Anderson is good at getting attacking returns. He's shown that in past seasons, so I think overall it's going to strengthen Fulham's defense. He's a good defender. I do rate him. Let's move into my Game Week 1 team review. So how did we do in Game Week 1? Well, my team put up 61 points in Game Week 1, which is, it's pretty average to be honest, but I told myself before Game Week 1 started, before the deadline, sorry, that 60 points is probably the minimum / average I was aiming for. So Paro, he did just get me over the line on Monday with that 9-pointer. So Am I happy with the score? Look, I'm content with how many points I put up, but I definitely want to push on from here. I'm sitting, what, 3.3 million at the moment, and look, I don't think rank means too much to me at the moment, but I definitely want to see green arrows from here on out. I think I did recommend Mo Salah as the best Game Week 1 captain, but I put Isak as the second best option over Saka, and honestly, I wouldn't really change my decision now. The Southampton fixture at one of the strongest home grounds in the Prem, captaining their striker on penalties with good minutes. I don't think anyone could foresee the red. It's just one of those things. So I don't think it was necessarily a problem with my data or my thought process, but it's just one of those things that didn't really work out. I would have expected hopefully some more points from him, but it's just one of those things, and I think he looks quite solid going forward. Now, who's actually on fraud watch? Nkunku. He got the early sub for Pedro Neto at 58 minutes, which is a concern. Let's move on to my Game Week 2 team selection and see how I'm looking. This is my locked Game Week 2 team. In net, it's Dean Henderson from Palace, Trent, Hall, and Porro are my starting 3 defenders. Harwood Bellis is there to cover Porro, with Nkunku, Eze, and Saka in the midfield, as well as Bruno. Armstrong, Haaland, and Alexander Isak lead my front 3 forwards. Now, let's start with the defense. Henderson, he plays West Ham at Selhurst Park in Game Week 2. It's a solid fixture. I do hope he cleans, but I'm not really expecting the clean because I think West Ham have more than enough firepower to score, so not really expecting too much from him. Hopefully a couple save points. Trent, look, I was very happy with Trent in Game Week 1. Very happy. Clean sheet, 2 bonus, 8 points, and he barely even blinked, basically. There's not much more I can ask from Trent, but he definitely needs to be consistent in this opening patch, so I am expecting a return against Brentford, either a clean sheet or goal assist. I don't really care, just a return, right? That's all I want. But look, Trent, 7 million, he's going to be an absolute cheat code this year, no doubt. Lewis Hall is next, and look, I'm proud with the Lewis Hall pick because I actually know a couple friends of mine who have moved to Hall from Kwanzaa before Kwanzaa's price drop, and one good way to tell if you've started FPL well is, are people transferring your players in or out? If it's in, then obviously you've done some things right, but if it's out, I mean, that's not very ideal. But yeah, I'm just hoping Hall can get me something against Bournemouth. Porro, yes, look, there's doubts with Porro, but look at my bench. I mean, Harwood Bellis with Forest at home, he offers some solid coverage, and I think there's some upside in that fixture for the clean sheet, and that's if Porro doesn't play, but I hope he does, because wow, he was in some amazing positions, man. I mean, he's looking super nice at the start of the season, and Everton at home, I think this is one of his best fixtures in the 38 games. I am quite concerned though with Spurs' defense. I mean, they don't really look that solid. That Leicester game was not a display that screams defensive solidarity and clean sheets. Romero slacking again. Sometimes he's so frustrating to watch just for that Vardy. I mean, even if he's a little bit more switched on, and if you notice in the play before the ball gets crossed over to Vardy, Romero's sprinting out to defend Porro's side, and then he gets lost in that, and then that lack of concentration, lack of awareness, he just steps offside, allows Vardy to score, and there goes my clean sheet. So he is frustrating to watch, but Porro, he's offering a lot of attacking upside, 9 points, and please Porro return against Everton. Into the midfield, Saka, he was absolutely outstanding against Wolves. He was very decisive in the one-on-one situations, actions, very clinical, and that cross for Havertz's goals. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, look, I was telling you guys all preseason that this guy's the FPL Prince. I mean, I just hope you listened because he's turned up. I don't see Palmer scores. I don't see Son scores. So where are the other two? I'm telling you, this guy is the man in that 10 million price point. He's the man. Fernandez, ultimate points dodger in Game Week 1, should have had at least 2 returns. No, at least 1 return, but he could have had way more than that playing in the 9. But look, Bruno always be breaking my heart, man. I mean, he even said on social media, sorry to fantasy managers, I will repay you. Go check it out on Instagram, any of that, because you'll see it. And yes, Bruno, you better return. Because if it's a Game Week 5 and 1 return only, you are gone, mate. Gone. Eze now. Look, Eze, he was, in my opinion, the unluckiest player in Game Week 1. The ref disallowed his free kick goal basically because there was some scrapping in the box as he banged the free kick in and the ref wasn't even looking, so it got disallowed. Glasner came out after the game and he even said that the ref apologized, saying he got it wrong. But that just shows you the level of shit officiating, man. It's dog shit in this league. But I love the fixture this week. West Ham at home in terms of attacking perspective for Palace, sorry. I think it's a very good fixture, and he looks a lock for one return from Eberiche. Now on to Nkunku. I'm going to give Chris one more week in the team, and then I'll re-evaluate the situation. I suspect his minutes will be fine, and Neto didn't look very good when he came on. Chelsea do play tomorrow or the day after this video comes out, so Thursday they play Conference League, and it'll be good to see if Neto starts that one, because that would probably mean Nkunku's quite locked for the Wolves game, at least locked for 60 minutes, and I think he can do some damage in 60 minutes, so let's see what happens there. I'm going to be playing patient this season, so I'm keeping him. Into the forward line, Isak, I mean, look, he was quite unlucky in Gameweek 1 as well. I feel like he would have done better if they didn't have the red. But Bournemouth way, I've looked at his kickoff data for my captaincy video, which will be coming out in a couple days, and his data for the kickoff Sunday away games is surprisingly strong. So let's hope he delivers this weekend. We've got also Armstrong, who's got Forest at home in game week 2. Forest, they've got 2 injuries in their defense, and I'm not sure if Moreno will be ready. If there's any time to capitalize, it's now for Southampton with these opening fixtures. The first home game against an unimpressive Forest side, it's lining up perfectly for Armstrong, so if he doesn't return, I'm going to be quite disappointed with that. Now, let's talk about Haaland triple captain. Now, look, just off face value, Haaland triple captain, he's going to be the lowest EO in terms of effective ownership against you. He's going to be the lowest triple captain Haaland EO you're going to get for the rest of the season, just based on where his ownership is now, which is crazy. Even if he does have a crazy double later, right, and you triple captain him this week, and later he gets a crazy double, most people will be on him. So even if he scores 20, you're going to be on him as well. So let's say Haaland scores 20 in the double game week, right? You're going to be on him as well. People will get 60, you're going to get 40, but people only gain 20 points, which you'd hope you'd be able to cover with using another chip, and that's the argument for Haaland triple captain. Okay, so the key to Haaland triple captain is the chip strategy, and that would be to bench boost and use your mystery chip in the 2 double game weeks we're gonna have. Okay, we're only gonna have 2 double game weeks this season. Your strategy would be to use your mystery chip, bench boost in the 2 double game weeks, free hit in the blank game week, and then triple captain this game week, so that in theory you're optimizing your chips. I do think this is the best time to triple captain the most explosive player in his best single game week fixture. However, I just think you look at it in isolation. Haaland's ceiling is 25 points, 5 goals and max bonus. That's where I'm putting him in terms of how high do I think he can really go. I think 5 goals, right? Salah's put up 28 points in a double game week before, right? So you can just see that the player potential in a double game week is just a lot more than anything you're going to get in a single game week, right? Personally, for me, I just don't think it's worth it. I'd rather hold the triple captain until I've seen what the double game weeks are, and when I've also seen the mystery chip, because we don't find out what the mystery chip is until December. Once I've got all the information, then I can make the best decision on when to use my triple captain, in terms of which week I can use it on, in terms of which player I use it on, who's got the biggest points ceiling. And even if the mystery chip and bench boost are the best to use in doubles, Haaland's still got some tasty single fixtures laid on as well, so I'm sure I'm going to find a good week to use a triple captain. I just think waiting for the information to come out is the better option, and the fact is, in a double game week, you're going to have a higher point ceiling no matter what, because a player has the potential to play 180 minutes in 2 games versus a player playing 90 minutes in 1 game. So I don't think it is worth it, but look, there's some solid reasoning behind it, and it may work out for you, so I'm not saying go against it, but I'm saying I just think it is a little bit risky to using it this early on, and I think there's point potential elsewhere. I will be sticking with Nkunku. DOKU, who we'll be taking a look at later in the video, he was very close in my mind, but I need to build transfers. So I'm rolling in Game Week 1, and I'm just going to pray that it works out with me with Nkunku. I also think a week to evaluate the situation, see what Nkunku's minutes are looking like in the future, and then make my decision with 2 transfers in the bank, that is the better decision for me, the patient route. And this is something I've said on my channel. Patience is going to go a long way this season. Welcome to another new segment in my team selection videos. This is Thinking Transfers, a segment for all things FPL transfers related. And this week, it's quite a quiet week, as most people should be rolling, or at least that's what I would be recommending to do. But I've compiled a list of players who I'd recommend looking at if you've got fires in your team. If you do have a unique problem, just drop it down in the comment section and I'll respond to every single one. First, let's start with 4.5 million replacements for Kwanzaa, and Leif Davis does offer some great value at 4.5. He's got good long-term fixtures. You can play him most weeks after game week 2, and look, attacking fullback, could play some games at left wing, and he's a differential. A lot to like there. Hall is the next one. Look, you already know I've got Hall on my team. With Shar out, his minutes look good. He's been superb in preseason. He's actually top of all FPL defenders for returns in preseason. And just having Pope back, I think will improve and solidify Newcastle's defense for these early fixtures. He could even get a 65th minute sub and lock that early clean sheet in. So he's a good pick. Next, it's Rico Lewis. He's a short-term pick. Very, very short battery life as an FPL asset. You're just getting on him now for that Ipswich Town fixture. And the thing is, he was in the pockets playing as almost a number 10 against Chelsea, so he's got a ton of attacking upside if he even gets 70 minutes against Ipswich, and he offers you cheap access into the city's defense. Look, Walker is going to be back soon, and that's the real downside with the Lewis pick. I wouldn't be here if I was you, but if you are a very 0.0001% case and the short-term pick does fit you, then I would go for Rico Lewis. Robinson, this guy's top 2 for me in terms of who you're going to be jumping on. It's just because of Fulham's defense looks really, really good. Anderson has just joined, great fixtures, great entrance point with Leicester at home, and you've got the safety with the expected minutes, and he's fairly attacking, right? So even if you looked at Hull and you thought, there's still a little bit of doubt there in my mind, do I really want to go there for a 4.5? Go for Robinson. The fixtures, game weeks, 2 to 6 are very, very solid. Dunk is also on this list. He's got very big goal threat, and Hertzeller teams are very good from set pieces, and I'm sure this is something we're going to see in the next couple of weeks. He's also playing for an informed team, Brighton, very good in preseason, and they just thrashed Everton 3-0 away from home at Goodison Park, and that says something, right? New manager, great first result, and if you don't need to play your 4.5 this week and you need a 4.5, I think Dunk offers a lot because he also rotates well with Arsenal defense, who are quite highly owned, so he does offer some value, and he's got the most expected goal threat out of all of those Brighton defenders. Konza also is here just because, look, he's the 90-minute man. He's very reliable. You know what you're getting with him. He's playable most weeks 3 through to 9. He's also fouled a lot, so he could be a bonus magnet if Villa keeps him clean sheets in the next patch. I think he's a solid one, and he's, for me, the top one. If you don't have him, get him in because he's so reliable. Knock on wood, he doesn't get any injuries. Next, we're going to take a look at the attackers I'd recommend. So let's say you own an Ivan Toney or you don't fancy your current attacker. These are my favorites. So first, it's Jeremy Doku, who's the top midfielder if you're looking at a midfielder transfer for me. He smashed Bournemouth and Luton at home last season, and Ipswich, it just feels like a Doku fixture, right? His expected minutes also look very good with Foden just slowly coming back and Grealish just way out of the picture. He had a great game against Chelsea, and look, he's a differential city attacker who's playable in game weeks 3 and 4, right? He's going to be popular, and I think I haven't seen many people talking about him, but to me, he's the top of the list if you're looking at a midfielder transfer. Now, Smith Rowe and Muniz are on the list because Fulham have very good fixtures. You can play them this week, and I'm sure that's going to be something a lot of people are looking at. That's why Doku's top of the list. The entrance point is great, and that's the same with these Fulham attackers, Smith Rowe and Muniz. Next, it's Adam Armstrong. So let's say you've got Tony and you want to save a 2.5 in the bank. I wouldn't go Joao Pedro. I would go Adam Armstrong. The entrance point is really good. Nottingham Forest at home, and Forest don't look particularly good. We already discussed they've got 2 injuries in their defensive players, and I think, look, Armstrong got 90 minutes, looked decent, had quite a lot of XG and chances against Newcastle. He did miss those, but I thought overall he had a good game, and Ben Burton Diaz got the sub ahead of him. So I think, look, he looks very nailed, and first home game for Southampton, they need to pounce on their fixture run. Super differential, not many people own him, and his minutes just look much better with Pedro because Rutter has just joined from Leeds, right? So I think if you're looking at a 5.5 this week, I don't know why you should be, but if you are, Armstrong is the guy in my opinion. Now, these two picks next, Mbumo and Wisa, I really like. Mbumo especially because I do think Tony's leaving. He wasn't even in the squad. So Mbumo most likely will have penalties. Wisa's minutes also look very nailed for Brentford, and he looked quite sharp against Palace as well. Brentford, they've got some good fixtures coming. I think game week 4 they have Southampton at home, so they've got some very good fixtures coming. Their attack looks filled with goals. In preseason, they scored in every single game. So I think, look, they're very solid, but you cannot play them this week if you're looking to bring them in because they have Liverpool away this week. In 3 to 4 weeks, Mbuma is going to be owned by almost all of us. So even if you do have the opportunity on a wild card or a transfer to jump on a midfielder, I think Bumo, he looks very good. And that's a wrap on my Game Week 2 team selection. If you took any insight out of this video, I'd really appreciate a like, and make sure you subscribe, especially if you're a Salah no Haaland team. My Game Week 2 best captain video will be dropping in a day or so, and I can tell you now, you'll be very surprised with this week's captaincy ranking. So hit that subscribe button, activate your thinking cap, and if you want to know the best times to wildcard, check out this one right here. Peace.